everyone. I'm Allison. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From, number 88 with Dan. Who'll be here in a moment. What have you been reading? I am reading Sensitive. I don't remember who recommended this book to me. Obviously, they know I'm sensitive, and it was recommended to me. It's been a very validating read. I ever read. Oh, there he is. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm good. I was just talking about this book I'm reading called Sensitive.
Oh,
Um,
well, I mean, that's very apt, isn't it?
yeah, I don't remember who recommended it to me, but I'm like, well, yes, I am sensitive. So thank you. This has been very validating. Um, so I think a lot, I mean, I guess like 30% of us are sensitive, like, in our cells.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I would like to think so.
Yeah.
Unless the opposite is true and nobody feels anything. That's worrying.
Well, I think that happens too
Hmm.
sometimes, even to us sensitive folks,
Yeah,
because we
true.
sort of take on they talk about it in this book, take on like the toughen up mentality, and internalize that and go out in the world with that, which I certainly did, but I still was crying secretly in my room. So now it's nice that I don't have to do it secretly. So thank you for joining me. It's lovely to see you.
Good to
I was trying to
see you
think
too.
when I last saw you. Was it
I
about a year ago?
think we did the She-Hulk podcast,
Yeah.
the She-Hulk podcast at large, and
Yes.
yeah, and we were talking about the various episode or
Mhm.
whatever it was, and then I introduced a very odd or obscure Marvel
You
character.
sure
I think it was
did.
the
The
Orb.
orb. It
That
was,
was it.
yes.
You remember
Hmm.
well. You remember well, with all the squishy eyeballs rolling around in them.
Yes, I remember your knowledge of, and I can see behind you some comic
Yes,
stuff.
comics and
Yes.
material
Yes.
memorabilia.
Your knowledge is very impressive.
Yes, I wish it
The
was
depth and
useful though.
breadth.
I wish it was really useful, like there's a career in it or
Like you could
something. But
monetize it or
yeah,
somehow.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Hmm.
trying. I'm certainly trying.
I
But
know. It's tricky. I believe in you though. I believe
thank
in
you.
you.
I need it. I need
Um,
all the belief I can get.
yes. I think it's also gratifying to have something you love.
Yes,
Like,
definitely.
so even if it's not monetized, I think it does give us like, I don't know,
Yeah. Oh, well,
something
I do what the podcast and everything that I do.
you
I
do.
do it for me. I don't do it for everybody else. I get lots of people on that I care about and
Yeah.
want to hear what they have to say.
Hmm.
But I'm doing it for me. This is if I was out to make money or to get as many listeners as possible, again, would be very nice. But I don't expect that to happen. But primarily, I'm doing it for myself.
I think that's the most sustainable way to do things when we do things for ourselves. I do this for myself. I am happy to speak with each person that I speak with. It's such a privilege. And in the end, it's for me because I love it. So, speaking of, are you ready to read your poem, Dan?
Ooh, nerve-wracking. Yes. I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. Where I'm from. Here we go. I am from Spanner, from Kleenex and Rubik's. I am from the dust on the skirting boards. Hefty, hungry. I feel its eyes on me. I am from Orchid, loud and unique, yet everywhere. I am from long drives and mood swings. I am from Mona and Doris. I am from the loss of empathy and unconditional support. I am from what's wrong with you and it's not your fault. I'm from the in between. Faith in science is still faith. I am from Blackpool and the greenhouses, egg and bacon sandwiches and lasagna. I am from the great grandfather who was condemned to death for being different, the mother who provided me everything I'll never be able to repay. The space under the stairs, forgotten faces, pets, and cake toppers. How do we know where we are going if we don't appreciate how far we've already come?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheering up. Um, what was the as I said, I'm sensitive, so I tear up almost every time,
No, it's okay.
and I try not to cry because it's your poem. So, what was it like? What was the experience like for writing for you for writing it?
I mean, I wanted to take some time and really focus,
Mhm.
and I didn't want it to be too heady. I didn't want to get in the way, get the kind of the idea of writing down, and I didn't want it to
Mhm.
be too clinical. So
Mhm.
I think the structure is really good because
So
it
good.
gives you it's loose
Mhm.
but firm at the same
Mhm.
time, for you to be creative in, which is the way I like to be creative. Have some structure, but also
Mhm.
play around a little bit as well. And I thought it was perfect for me. So I think initially I was like, oh, I'll just throw in some random words, and we'll see what happens. But then actually, when I because I didn't want to think about it, they kind of came out, and then
Yeah.
when I read it back, I was like, no, these have meaning. These have something to say about me and something to say about me emotionally, intellectually, and then obviously the further it goes down, it kind of it eases you in to
Mhm.
deeper feelings and deeper thoughts and memories and people, and kind of who you are, exactly where you are from, and it does it in such a fantastic way. I thought it was really, really fascinating, and I've listened to Ria, who's listening now and
Yes. I
watching
left a
now.
comment.
Thank you, Ria. I do
Hi,
appreciate
Rhea.
that. Hi, Ria.
Yeah.
I listened to, and Ria's was a beautiful poem as well. I listened to
Mhm.
Tanya's and I listened to Mike's, and I'm going to listen to a lot more. But I thought those would be really good to listen to because I know them
Yeah.
to a degree.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar. I've just been at Megan and Mike's. So they had me around for
I
the weekend,
know. I
and it
saw.
was yeah, it was lovely. It was an amazing
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
Little stress with getting there, the toing
Hmm.
and froing
Because
with
of the
rail
strike.
strikes.
Hmm.
Yeah, but again, I support the
Yeah.
strikes. I fully support the strikes, so I'm not annoyed or angry with that.
Right. Right.
But yeah, lovely weekend. But yeah, I'm glad I gave it the time and focus, and I was open to it, to the experience and to delving. And again, I teared up. There was when I read some of it back, I was like, oh gosh, this is quite deep stuff, even for me. Usually I like to kind of laugh off the emotions,
Right.
make a funny joke and stuff, and
Right.
that's sometimes how I deal with uncomfortable feelings or emotions and stuff. But I really appreciated just getting kind of having a moment
Hmm.
to just get back in touch with myself and to think about people I've not thought about for a while, or memories I've not
Hmm.
thought about, or relationships and how they've changed, or how they've become more estranged
Hmm.
or strained. And but it also makes me appreciate. I think family comes up a lot in the suggestions anyway, but I
Yeah.
think also it comes up anyway. I think once you go down that road, things just start popping through. And
Hmm.
like part of me did look back on it, and I was like, maybe I'm being a bit too obvious with the answers. Like it's like mention this, and
No.
I'm being
No.
like, oh, this is an obvious answer, or this is my family name, or this is my surname, this is my
Yeah.
heritage. But maybe I could have thought of something a bit more artistic, or a bit more maybe. I know Mike was concerned about his rhyming,
Which
and I was
is
like,
very like impressive that
yeah,
he,
it was great. It was so good.
when I read it, I was like, wow, he took like he really was like, this is an assignment, and I,
Mm.
but it's not an
He
assignment.
understood the
Like, I mean,
assignment.
it's actually not. You can do whatever you want, and no, there's no wrong
No.
answers, which is why I like love the prompt, which I did not make up. I mean, at all. And I just think it's good, great,
Yeah.
wonderful to have things in our lives where there's no wrong answer, like that are creative. Because I think so
Mm.
many of us came up in school and with gatekeeping and various things that there is a right way to be artistic
Mm.
or to express ourselves, and there's not. I'm a strong believer in that there's not, because it belongs to all of us, our words and our
Absolutely.
stories. So
Mm.
I love this because there are no wrong answers. And I loved what you said about how, as you go through George Ella's, obviously her
Mm.
original poem works this way and the prompt does, but how it does go deeper. Like you sort of get your feet wet with talking about what you ate or
Mm.
what kind of flowers there might have been, but then you get deeper into the stories of where you're from and that sort of intergenerational stuff that affects us, and that we hear, some of us more directly than others. Some of us really just hear whispers of things that happened. I was told, straightforward some shit that went down,
Hmm.
but regardless, we feel it like it's in the air we breathe. And growing up,
Hmm.
and so what happened to your great grandfather? Do you feel comfortable
Yeah.
sharing
Oh,
that?
yeah.
That's quite
Absolutely.
a line.
Yeah. Heck of a one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So dramatic. That's my acting background coming through. So the story goes that during World War II, my great grandmother met my great grandfather. He was an Italian man, spoke many languages, and lived in the UK, lived in England. They were
Hmm.
very happily married. My great grandmother fell pregnant, and because when World War II broke out, Winston Churchill made a decision that everybody who was
Hmm.
not English born,
Hmm.
white English born, potentially could be an Axis spy. So it could be a
Right.
fascist. So he was Italian. So unfortunately, they deported several groups of immigrants back
Hmm.
to their country of origin. So they were going back. It was on a boat, I believe it was called the Arandora Star,
Hmm.
and it was going out of Scotland, I believe, at the time. And unfortunately, a Nazi U-boat
Hmm.
torpedoed it and sunk it.
Hmm.
Everybody died. So, and then Winston Churchill said that that decision he made, was purely out of fear,
Of course. Yeah.
and he regrets it.
Hmm.
I'm not. He's not. I'm not saying he's the best person. I don't blame him or anything like that. But my my grandmother never knew her father because of that,
Right.
which is kind of our kind of family trauma.
Hmm.
And again, I think sometimes some of my family members may forget that. I think with maybe some of the political views they
Hmm.
have, or the way they sway, or comments they've made. Again, I love them, but I don't necessarily like the way they think
Hmm.
sometimes. And I just think, that's not even 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's quite recent history,
Yeah.
and it could easily happen again.
Yes, and I think it's so important to talk about it, because
Mm,
here, we had the Japanese prison camps, and
of
that
course,
was
yeah.
not even 100 years ago, and it just wasn't even taught for
Mm,
such a long time. The property and the money that was taken, and they were imprisoned, and because they were assumed to be enemies,
mm,
because someone had lived in Japan. I mean, it wasn't even
yeah,
like they were, you know, it wasn't like they just moved here. Not that that's an excuse, but I mean, they were American citizens.
sure.
Um, yeah,
Mm,
it's just fear makes people do really unfortunate things.
mm,
Uh,
yeah.
and we see it now politically, obviously, here and everywhere.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, over here, there's a new stop the boats campaign, which
Right?
again won't stop the boats.
No, 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 it doesn't. It's just like when they outlaw abortion, it doesn't stop it. It just
No,
stops the safe ones.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Which is, uh,
that's a whole tangent for a whole podcast or
but
a
I
whole
do
nother
think
thing.
but what you say, I mean, what you said about people don't necessarily remember it in your family or talk about it. I think there is this sort of, it happens a lot here too, like this assimilation idea, like we were here first or second or
Mm,
whatever the hell you
yeah,
want to tell yourself, so that you can keep other people out or infringe upon their rights, or, and it, remembering where we're from and how that all went down, and that, I mean, anyone who looks like me was not here first. It's important, um, and it's amazing how quickly they forget. I thought about that with my ancestors
mm,
too when I was writing my poem, because I think the ones who most recently immigrated, which was my father's side of the family, I don't know what happened. Like nobody
mm,
talked about it. It was like, just forget it. It was bad.
mm.
We're here now.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, any other? So, what did you mean about the dust under the stairs? That you could feel its eyes on you? That was another one that I was like, tell me more.
So recently I've been going through a kind of I've been having some difficulties at work, and I've been
Mm,
having some difficulties managing myself, my
mm,
time, my emotions,
mhm,
and I'm almost 98% sure. I was diagnosed with dyspraxia, which is a learning
mhm,
difficulty that affects
mhm,
you, and dyslexia.
mhm, mhm,
It's kind of motor functions,
mhm,
the way your brain works, balance, coordination, memory, you name it, all the
mhm,
things. But the recently, I've been kind of going down this kind of road. I was on antidepressants recently. I've come off them now,
mm,
and I thought that that was the
mhm,
issue. I thought that was the
mhm,
problem, but I've not. I didn't have necessarily any suicidal thoughts. Not that depression is suicidal thoughts at all. It does vary, absolutely, um, but I've come to the realization that I'm 98% sure I have some severe form of ADHD,
mhm,
and I've been. It's interesting that this has come along at this point because they ask you to kind of go back and
mm,
kind of
mhm,
recontextualize everything you've ever done, everything you've ever experienced, every
mm,
decision you've ever made.
mhm,
Why did you do that? Why did you react like that? How could you have handled that better? Could that be a symptom? Could this be a trigger? Could this be something?
mhm,
And I've not got an official diagnosis as of yet, but there's a lot of kind of things where I'm like executive dysfunction
mm,
is a
mhm,
symptom, and rejection dysphoria, and
mhm.
memory issues, and all this other stuff, stimming, and all these
Right.
other things that kind of come up, and I'm like, it's just a tick box for me. I'm just going, yeah, 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 yeah. I've got all of these. I've done all of these, and
Yeah, yeah.
again, it might be something else. Maybe there's some autism. I remember a former girlfriend who said I was autistic or thought I was autistic,
Mm,
and at the time I was a little offended, a little shocked. Maybe I should
mm,
have listened. Maybe I should have paid
mm,
attention. Maybe I shouldn't have been so sensitive. But then me being overly sensitive is also a symptom of ADHD. So I'm like, oh, well, that's why I would have reacted that way. But yeah, so it's a journey I've kind of only just started going down,
mhm.
and in a way, it's kind of a relief
Yeah.
for me because I go, okay, I know, I equate it to sometimes how maybe someone coming out would find it, or someone who is transitioning or realize they were born in the wrong
Mhm,
body. They go,
mhm,
oh, I know what it is now. Now I know the steps I can take to, to not what's not quote unquote what's wrong with you, but I know the steps I need to take to be better and to find a better way. I think
mhm,
is how
mhm,
I want to put it.
mhm.
And now and like it could be like, oh no, I've got another thing wrong with me, which I think was one of the things I was avoiding,
Mhm.
kind of digging
Yeah,
into it a bit more.
yeah.
But when it was coming to a point where it was costing me my livelihood and my job,
Mm,
and we didn't have a reason, and there was nothing I could do or say to stop it,
mhm,
that's when I had to sort of, admit to myself that something was wrong and kind of get that clarity. Again, an official diagnosis is apparently 2.5 years away on the
really?
NHS, so
Oh,
I can look at maybe doing it privately or something like that, or
yeah.
maybe there's some way I can speed the process up. I don't know. If anybody knows, let me know. I would love the help. Um, but yeah, so it's kind of a personal journey I've been making, and yeah, it's a discovery, and I think this kind of poem kind of there's a lot of that there, and then me not having because the ADHD brain is basically chasing for dopamine, and you always want
Mm, mhm,
that kind of next fix of
mhm.
dopamine, like nothing like it's nothing like it. I mean, it can be addictive in a sense, but I'm not into anything
Right,
that's seriously addictive.
right.
Not nothing really habit forming. But maybe I
Mhm.
might not fancy cleaning today. So the dirt on the skirting boards is the judgment. It's the
Oh, okay.
judgmental. Its
Okay.
eyes are on me, and I feel it, and I feel it on my chest. I'm like, I need to do that. I
Mm,
need to do that, but why can't I
mhm,
move? Why am I,
mhm,
why have I got this ADHD
mhm,
paralysis today? Why is
mhm.
this? why is this stopping me? And again, the overwhelming list of other things I
Mm-hmm.
need to be getting on with to have a functioning adulthood and a livelihood and everything kind of, it can become overwhelming. And that's again another symptom. So again, it's something I know people, I know other people that have symptoms,
Oh
and
yeah.
I won't
I mean, I know plenty
yeah,
who do.
I'm
Yes.
sure, yeah, I'm sure you do.
And I think
There's
a lot of people came to it later in life because it just wasn't something people were talking about or aware of. Like, I feel like one of the only learning differences that people talked about when I was a kid was dyslexia. Like anything
yeah,
else. And they called it ADD, but that was a very different diagnosis.
yeah,
And that
exactly.
was, they just put you on Ritalin, which
Mm,
didn't solve anything really for a lot of
no.
people. So so I was curious about that line
Mm,
specifically because I wondered, I mean, I'm interested in all of it, but I wondered if it spoke to something that you reflect on now. Because for me, I thought maybe it was you talking about anxiety, like it's speaking to
mm,
you,
mm,
or some other mental health thing, because I'm always interested. I have a lot of friends who have chronic illnesses. So when they've shared their poems with me, I'm curious, like, will there be foreshadow or
mm.
were there seeds of that there, or the trauma that I live with or many of us live
Mm.
with, um, like so much of who we are now. I mean, it's all there. So I was just curious how that specific
Yeah,
relationship to the dust,
yeah,
you planted it, how it's paid off for you. So it's
mm.
to do with what
Yeah.
you
The kind
believe
of
is an ADHD diagnosis.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think so, and I think it's I think as well it's kind of because I've lived with all my life kind of having difficulty, like you can I think you can hear it in the poem as well, like when I mention like it's not your fault,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
wrong with you, like
Mm-hmm.
that comes up, and that brings a lot to the surface for me, because I mean
Mm-hmm.
there was stronger words used that I will absolutely not use here, but there's why can't you get it right,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
it's so simple, why is it like
It's so
when I was
simple.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it was like how
Mm-hmm.
can't you get this? I found myself as a child like on, I guess we would call it a kind of remedial table. There was
Yep.
other people with learning difficulties much more severe than my own, but I never felt I didn't have a place there because
Mm-hmm.
I was too
Yeah.
intelligent, too intelligent, a level of intelligence where they just didn't quite understand. But then I was also not being able to get on with my work, that I could sit on the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
tables with everyone else. So I was kind of
Mm-hmm.
caught in this kind of purgatory and I felt that I had to. Uh, I guess masking is another term in
Mm-hmm.
ADHD that they use, and I had to feel that I had to somehow uh, show value,
Mm-hmm.
show that I was worth listening to, talking to, being friends with, playing with.
Mm-hmm.
I had to demonstrate something. That probably led to my acting career, and to me, being the class clown
Mm-hmm.
and all the other stuff that I do. It's very much a part of me, and I think,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I've discovered as well, is it's not something I should be ashamed of,
Mm-hmm.
or I shouldn't be as hard on myself as I think I should be.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of come out a lot in the poem as well, and how, and in a sense it still does, like I'll talk over people. I'm like, oh, stop! What are you doing? Don't do that. That's rude. Or I'll cut people off, or I'll look like I'm zoning out. I'm not paying attention, even though I
Mm-hmm.
am. But it's just this thing, but it can be viewed as. I think there's a book out there which is like, I'm not mean, stupid, or lazy. I think it's called. Uh,
Yes.
it's something like there's an ADHD book, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
along those lines. And I was like, I absolutely get that title 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's how maybe I've appeared, and I don't ever want to appear like that. And unfortunately, I have, and maybe I have been insensitive at times, and harsher, or not as understanding as I'd like to have been. And yeah, so yeah, it's all coming up, and it's all kind of me thinking back, and I think they also want evidence of stuff. So I have been
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
recontextually and going, oh, oh yeah, why have none of my relationships worked out or lasted very long? Oh, maybe it's because of this, because I can't be fully present with someone. I can't I need to present value, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't be
Mm-hmm.
completely open or honest with
Mm-hmm.
somebody, and intimate
Mm-hmm.
on a level with
Mm-hmm.
myself, you know, let alone another person. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's, you know, an answer for that as well. So, but yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing, but it's a process, and I'm glad for the process. I'm happy for the process. Um, but it's very much at the front of my
Yeah,
brain at the moment.
understandably.
Mm.
I mean, we need to wrap up, and I was going to
Sure.
say, do you have any last thoughts? But that was pretty good last thoughts. And I will say, reading this book, and for me, like the checklist, and also it talks about relationships, and just I think you can use this for any relationships, whether you're sensitive or not. Like just figuring out what you need, and to be able to talk about that instead of coming from a place of defensiveness and apology, coming from a place of this is when I'm my best self, when I have 2 hours alone or whatever it is, like I think so many of us feel we need to apologize for the things that help us feel our best selves. And we don't, because there's someone out there, Dan, I promise, who has their things too,
Yeah,
like, and it's, we want to be able to be ourselves with someone. Like that's how it's
absolutely.
sustainable. So we also need to figure out who we are. That's the
I'm,
complicated
st- I'm
part.
still working that one out.
That's the hardest part, I think. Like I want to be real with you and be myself. Who is
Mm,
myself?
mm.
Um, so I just really want to thank you, Dan, for joining me and being so honest and vulnerable. And I have never found you mean, stupid, or lazy. I want to say that out loud. Um, so you've never, I've never, those words have never
No,
crossed my mind. I also don't like those words,
no,
specifically stupid and lazy.
no.
Or really think they're true
Mm,
about people. I think oftentimes people who we perceive to be lazy, it's our own shit, or they have something else going on.
absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
so I just want to say all those things. So thank you so much,
My
Dan. I really appreciate
pleasure,
it.
my pleasure. I know you struggle to find men to come on, but
I do.
I've loved it. I've loved it. I've reveled in the opportunity. Again, gets me out of my comfort zone, which I really enjoy, and it makes me, look at the world with open eyes and different eyes. So I always enjoy that, and seeing from different perspectives and my own perspective, a different perspective of
Mm-hmm.
my own. I
Yeah.
really, really enjoy it. I must get you on my podcast as well, because
Yes.
I struggle
Anytime.
for female
I bet
guests.
you do.
So it's vice versa.
Well, we have to brainstorm because,
Oh yeah,
yeah, we gotta talk
we
because the
got we got
movies,
a
I'm
lot
like,
of.
nope.
But you've written a comic. I do
Yes,
comics, so
yes,
we
I
can
can
do
talk
that.
about that. Yes, but
Fantastic.
I can't talk about necromancer.
No,
So,
necromantic. Yeah,
I'm
that's not even
sorry.
on my show.
Okay.
But we've got Mike
I just
suggest.
see all the conversations
Yeah,
about it, and I'm like,
you're like, oh God, no.
no.
Well, Mike is trying to top necromantic
Oh boy.
with another film that
Mm.
Megan almost stopped watching and cried. So
Right.
there'll be
Right.
there'll be a lot to say about that. So
God.
that's coming up. So in the
Like I
next couple
said,
of months,
I'm sensitive. So,
sensitive. Yeah,
so no.
yeah.
Okay, Dan, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah.